The party bus was already nosed into the ditch when the alpaca trotted past my mailbox wearing a glow necklace. I stood there on my porch with my morning coffee, watching this surreal parade unfold in the golden light of a Saturday dawn. The bus had pink streamers dangling from its mirrors and a banner reading Bride Squad strapped to its side, now half submerged in mud and wildflowers. Behind the bus, a woman in a navy blazer and hiking heels swung bolt cutters at my cabin gate like she was auditioning for a CrossFit cult. Her face was crimson with effort and fury. She shrieked at the top of her lungs to open it immediately, screaming that these were her paying guests and I had absolutely no right to block their access to the waterfront. Her voice cracked on the last word. The mountains swallowed the echo. The gate, solid steel and properly locked with a chain I'd installed just 2 weeks prior, didn't even shiver. Behind her, 20 women in matching pink sashes stood in confused silence while the alpaca munched on a fern. My name's Owen Hail. I live quiet on a sliver of pine and granite at the edge of Cedar Summit, where the HOA calls itself Cedar Summit Lakeside Village to pretend our lake isn't mostly a beaver pond. I keep to myself. I split wood, fix old radios, and feed a wily jay that thinks it owns my porch. My driveway is a private easement with a wildfire-rated gate at the road, installed 6 years ago with full county approval and permits. The HOA's new president, Beverly Concincaid, has helmet hair that never moves in wind, pearl studs that match her cap teeth, and a voice like a smoke alarm testing its batteries at 3 in the morning. She decided my gate was hostile to community spirit during her second week in office. Translation: her short-term rental empire would be significantly more profitable if tourists could cut across my land to reach her lakeside chalet without adding 10 minutes to their scenic drive. I declined her request. Politely. Twice. The second time I even offered to show her my property deed and easement documents. Beverly escalated like a weather app during fire season. First came the unsightly gate violation notice taped to my fence with so much packing tape it took me 20 minutes to scrape off, leaving adhesive residue I'm still finding. This was particularly rich since the gate's county-approved, powder-coated charcoal gray, and about as boring as a spreadsheet. Then came the unannounced curb appeal inspections that involved her photographing my compost bin from 6 different angles like it was contraband, followed by formal letters about non-compliance with aesthetic standards that don't actually exist in our bylaws. I checked. Twice. She started stuffing flyers in every mailbox on the mountain, calling me the gate gremlin and promising her guests a scenic shortcut through my private drive if she could just reason with a difficult neighbor. She included a hand-drawn map with my property marked in red with a sad face emoji. Then the trespasses began in earnest. Landscapers stomping through my ferns to access the lake, claiming they'd been told it was a public right-of-way. A yoga group doing sun salutations on my woodpile at dawn while playing meditation flute music that scared off every bird within a quarter mile. A drone hovering so low over my deck that my hat brim fluttered and my coffee rippled in concentric circles. I documented everything with dates, times, and photographs, and still wouldn't give her a gate code. During an HOA meeting in June, she accused me of hoarding the outdoors with an indignant tone that could strip paint off a barn, suggesting I had a moral obligation to share my private property for the greater good of tourism revenue. 3 people actually applauded. In July, Beverly staged what she called an emergency access drill with all the theatricality of a campaign rally. She sent a mass email to the HOA membership on a Tuesday afternoon announcing that the fire marshal required all community gates to remain unlocked on weekends for emergency vehicle access during peak fire season. Her proof was a letter on official county letterhead with the body text in Comic Sans font, size 14, with the fire marshal's name misspelled as Randall Hutchins instead of the actual Randall Hutchinson. That should have been the tell, but most folks don't look that close when something has a government seal. She chartered a party bus for a bachelorette celebration, complete with pink sashes, a hired alpaca wearing a bow tie and flower crown, and a cooler full of champagne bottles that clinked every time the bus hit a pothole. While the bus idled at my gate with its diesel engine rumbling and spewing exhaust into the pine-scented air, she personally clipped my lock with bolt cutters, the metal shrieking as it gave way. Then she directed her hired handyman to zip-tie a brand-new Home Depot common area path sign to my cedar post, the price sticker still attached. Unfortunately for Beverly, my trail cam network is the only social life I maintain, and I maintain it well. 6 cameras from different angles caught the bolt cutters in action, the sign installation, her checking her phone for the time, and her instructing the bus driver in an exasperated voice to gun it over my culvert like they were in an action movie chase scene. The county's actual fire marshal, Randall Hutchinson with an I and 2 N's, summoned by a neighbor's 911 call about a blocked fire road and suspicious activity involving power tools, arrived exactly 14 minutes later to find Beverly performing an impromptu safety speech in front of an idling bus, 20 confused bachelorettes clutching champagne flutes, and one very patient alpaca who seemed far more interested in the vegetation than the drama. Marshal Hutchinson did not love it. His face went from curious to concerned to absolutely livid in the span of about 30 seconds. The fire marshal shut down the bus immediately, cited the driver for blocking an access road, and radioed the sheriff because the letter was clearly fake. Wrong department seal, wrong fire marshal name, and that cursed Comic Sans that no government agency has used since 2008. Deputies canvassed the scene, examined my easement deed, and spent quality time reviewing footage from my trail cams. They also noticed Beverly's handyman had popped the lock on a utility box to borrow power for the party string lights he'd strung across my driveway without permission. That's when everyone's faces got very still and very serious. The HOA's attorney arrived 10 minutes later, barefoot in boat shoes, apparently pulled straight from his lakehouse dock. He read through the bylaws with increasing horror and turned the color of skim milk. Turns out the HOA never actually had authority over private easements, only common paths and roads east of Birch Loop. My property is west of Birch Loop. We could have all saved an entire summer of conflict by reading page 5 of the covenant documents. The next HOA meeting was standing room, only in the rec lodge, with people lined up against the walls and spilling onto the deck outside. Word had spread fast about what happened, and everyone wanted to see how this would play out. I brought a USB stick loaded with video evidence, and the J rode my shoulder like a pirate's therapist, occasionally whistling at dramatic moments that seemed almost too perfectly timed. Beverly tried to start the meeting with normal business, her voice tight and controlled, but the crowd wasn't having it. Someone called for special business, and the motion passed before she could even lift her gavel. On the big screen, I played the greatest hits compilation I'd spent 3 evenings editing together. Beverly coaching someone on proper bolt cutter technique, complete with her saying cut here, no higher, we need it to look natural. Beverly stapling the counterfeit fire marshal letter to the community bulletin board while giving a thumbs up to her phone camera like she was filming a tutorial. Beverly telling the alpaca handler in a voice dripping with false sweetness that if anyone official asks questions, he should say he's with Wildfire Education and Safety Outreach, a program she'd completely fabricated. The room watched in absolute silence, broken only by occasional gasps and one person's shocked laughter that got quickly stifled. Then a deputy I'd been working with rolled in a wheeled cart stacked with printouts and evidence folders organized with colored tabs. Email headers tracing the forged fire marshal letter directly to Beverly's home office IP address, sent at 2:17 in the morning 3 days before the incident. Vendor invoices for an influencer experience package featuring rustic gate backdrop and mountain adventure photo opportunities, paid for with her business credit card. A spreadsheet labeled shortcut fee revenue projections showing she planned to charge her rental guests an extra $75 per booking for premium access to my private property, estimating annual revenue of $48,000. The spreadsheet even had a growth projection chart. The room turned quiet enough to hear a pine cone drop on the roof, quiet enough to hear people breathing. The sheriff, a stern woman named Captain Torres who'd seen everything in her 23 years on the job, stood up with her citation book and formally cited Beverly for criminal trespass, vandalism, utility tampering, and filing a false official notice. The county district attorney, who'd been sitting quietly in the back corner in a suit that looked too formal for our little mountain community, added the final charge with the gravity of a judge delivering a verdict: forgery of government correspondence, a felony under state law. The HOA board held an emergency vote on her immediate removal. Beverly tried to gavel it down, her face flushed crimson and sweat beading on her upper lip, but the gavel head flew off mid-swing and thunked into the cheese platter on the refreshment table like destiny itself had an opinion on the proceedings. By the end of the meeting, Beverly Concincaid was removed from the board by unanimous vote, with even her closest allies abstaining rather than defending her. The sheriff handed her citations totaling $12,000 in fines across multiple violations. The county district attorney announced in a calm, measured voice that she would face criminal charges for the forged government document, which carried a potential sentence of up to 3 years in state prison and a permanent criminal record. Beverly's face went from red to white to a shade of gray I didn't know human skin could achieve. She tried to speak, her mouth opening and closing like a fish, but only managed a choking sound as she gathered her papers with shaking hands. Her short-term rental permit was suspended for 1 full year on the spot by the county inspector who'd been quietly sitting in the back row taking notes. The suspension meant immediate loss of her primary income stream and potential breach of contract penalties with dozens of booked guests. Beverly stumbled toward the door, her hiking heels catching on the threshold, and the room remained absolutely silent except for the sound of her footsteps and one person's slow, deliberate clap that everyone pretended not to hear.